to have an official roll call. Please respond as I call your name. Kelly Baker Heffley, Susan Besser,
Here.
Jeff Carson, Mike Hathaway,
Here.
Brian Laster,
Here.
Lisa Marquardt,
Here.
Mary Pierce,
Here.
Ken Scalf,
Here.
and Jim Roberts here. Our first item is to entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2020-138, a resolution declaring that the Historic Zoning Commission shall meet on August 10th, 2020, and conduct its essential business by electronic means rather than being required to gather a quorum of the members physically present in the same location, because it is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Is there such a motion?
So
I
moved.
move.
Ms. Pierce, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. All right, please respond as I call your name. Susan Besser,
Yes.
okay. Jeff Carson's absent. Mike Hathaway,
Here.
Brian Laster,
Aye.
Lisa Marquardt,
Aye.
Mary Pierce,
Aye.
Ken Scalf,
Aye.
and Jim Roberts. Aye. To prevent the spread of COVID-19 and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of City of Franklin officials, staff, and citizens, the Historic Zoning Commission will restrict physical access in the building room to a small number of staff members due to the current limitations on public gatherings. Accommodations have been made to ensure that the public is still able to participate in the meeting. The public may participate in the following ways: watch the meeting on Franklin TV, watch the live stream through the City of Franklin Facebook and YouTube accounts. Call 615-550-8434 to listen to the meeting. Callers will be unmuted and given the opportunity to ask questions during the meeting at specific times. Limited viewing will be available in the lobby of City Hall to watch the live video. The public may email questions to planning intake at franklintn.gov to be read aloud during the meeting. Comments will be accepted up to 1 hour prior to the meeting. Share your official comment with the agenda item number specified in the comment section of the Facebook or YouTube live videos. Next, I need to entertain a motion to approve the July 13th, 2020 minutes. Will someone make that motion?
Mr. Chair, I have a correction.
Okay, let's get a motion in a second, then you can make the correction.
So moved.
Thank you, Ken. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, Susan.
On page 6, near the bottom of the page, it says Ms. Besser stated Ms. Baker Heffley will have to state a reason for against the guidelines, and it should have for voting against the guidelines. Or I guess make a for making a motion
Yeah.
against the guidelines.
Okay. You got that, Ms. Rose? Okay. Is there any other addition or correction? Then all in favor of the minutes as with Ms. Besser's correction, please say, or wait a minute, let me call your name. Ms. Besser,
Aye.
Mr. Hathaway,
Aye.
Mr. Laster,
Aye.
Ms. Marquardt,
Aye.
Ms. Pierce,
Aye.
Mr. Scalf,
Aye.
and Jim Roberts, aye. All right, are there any non-agenda items to be placed on the agenda? The non-agenda process by design is reserved for emergency instances. Non-agenda items will be considered only upon the unanimous approval of all historic zoning members. Are there any items? Hearing none, we'll move on to citizen comments on items not on the agenda. This is open for Franklin citizens to be heard on items not included on this agenda. As provided by law, the Historic Zoning Commission shall make no decisions or consideration of action for citizen comments except to refer the matter to the planning director for administrative consideration or to schedule the matter for historic zoning consideration at a later date. And I understand we have a couple of citizens wishing to comment. So with those citizens, when you speak, please identify yourself.
Yes, we have two citizens speaking on a non-agenda item tonight. Bill Barkley, would you please go first?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for allowing me to be on the call. And I hope everybody can hear me all right. The reason I'm calling is because when we noticed that you're having this meeting of the Special Historic Zoning Committee, that our concern is the property that is currently known as the Campbell property, and it's accessed by Old Charlotte Pike. And it's situated in between the Gentry Farm, the Short Farm, and our place, which is on the National Register and was the original home place. And so where our concern is that there's been a petition, and has not been formally filed, or it may or may not have been. We're not sure. And as of today, it could have been. And their request is that it be annexed into the city, and the city's ordinance that would apply to that is a very, very high density ordinance. In conjunction with that, tomorrow, the HOMA is having a work session. And in that session, one of the major agenda items is the discussion of the major thoroughfare plan. And so they're going to make a decision, or maybe not tomorrow, but there's going to be a major discussion about creating a collector road that really overtakes the historic Old Charlotte Pike and runs right through the middle of the heart of the last of the remaining rural character of Williamson County and Franklin. And the heart and soul, really, and that's what's left. And they want to put a collector, there's a discussion about a collector road. I'm not saying they're going to do it, that would go through there. And then there's a proposal by CPS Land for rezoning, not a rezoning, but a planning plan that they have where they would put 152 homes on that site. And so we're talking about high density, major roads coming through the heartland of the last remaining historic character of Williamson County. Obviously, we're very concerned. I'm not calling just because I'm a property owner and I'm worried about it. Just for me, there are 3 historic century farms that are in this vicinity, and we think that our request to you all is to try to put forth the fact that there's a plan called Envision Franklin, and Envision Franklin all the way through it at the very beginning, it states that the emphasis is in historic areas to preserve the established character and ensure contextually compatible infill development. And we are really of the strong opinion that the ordinance that would be applied if this property is annexed is absolutely in conflict with that, what the Envision plan says it's supposed to be about. In addition, it talks about how the idea of the plan is that it's sort of you continually come back and revisit it. So what we're asking for is that this area, that you all undertake the idea that this area there's an historic overlay for the rural character for this area, and that there's this zoning that they have is not the right type of zoning ordinance, and it needs to be very specially considered. And we really don't believe that there's any need whatsoever for a collector road of any kind coming through the heart of this property. That's really what I want to say. So there's 2 things going on: a request for annexation, which would allow for a plan of 152 homes being proposed, and there's also the consideration tomorrow in the major thoroughfare plan of a major road that it would destroy the character of Old Charlotte Pike, it would destroy the character of these century farms, and the history that still exists here today. So I'm sorry I went on and on. I'm going to let Scott talk now. Sorry, Scott.
Well, you didn't leave much to talk about, Bill.
I rarely do. Sorry. I'm sorry.
For sure, echo everything Bill just said. And the only thing I can add is to this is I think somewhere I've read the city calls it the Western Basin. It's more than just here. It goes northward. And if you take the time to look at a Google map, you'll see quickly what I'm talking about. This collector road, which will become a major thoroughfare, bisects this. it will create a lot of traffic coming to the north, not just this one development. There's 10 times more development area north of this. So all this would join forces, and we'll lose what's left, as Bill said, of this older heartland of Williams County. It'll just be pictures. That's all I can say at this time.
Scott, this is Jim Roberts. Can you give me your last name? I'm sorry I didn't get it before.
Gentry.
Okay, got it. Is that all we have, Kelly, on citizen comments?
Would anyone else like to make a citizen comment? That's all.
Okay, now we're to our formal.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if this is the appropriate time or not, but would it be possible to put consideration of historic overlay for the Century Farm area on our design review agenda?
I'm fine with that if we can do that.
Yeah, I don't really know. I guess
don't
we
know.
would have to ask council the appropriate way to do that. But I would certainly like to carry forth that idea, how we could legally put that on as an agenda item. That's what I'm saying.
That's what she's
Yeah.
asking, a discussion.
Yes.
Okay, and I was muted. I apologize. I'm going to say it again for the record. I told Ms. Pierce that it would be an item that could be discussed but not considered.
That's perfect.
That's fine. All right, to our formal agenda, item number 1 had just been pulled this afternoon. So that's, we're going to move on to item 2. Oh, I'm muted. I'm sorry. Sorry. Item 1 has been pulled. So we're moving on to item 2. And item 2 is consideration of alterations, storefront lighting and design at 104 East Main Street. We're
Thank
going to do, Kelly Gibson is going to do this presentation for the staff. We're going to do it in 4 pieces because there are 4 items, 4 different pieces on this. So we're going to do it one at a time and go from there. So Kelly, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could please share my screen. Thank you. Can everyone see the photo on my screen?
Yes.
Great. The applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness for a series of work at 104 East Main Street as follows. Wall signage with signage lighting, the alteration of the entry storefront, and the alteration of 2 storefronts on the side elevation, including the construction of a nano wall window system on one storefront window and a second egress on the other storefront window. So from this photo here, you can see a view of the building along East Main, showing the location of the entry storefront. And just to give an overview. Can everyone see the photo change?
Right. Got it.
Great. Here's an oblique view showing the entry storefronts along with the location of the proposed nano wall and the proposed second egress location. And then one more photo. Can everyone see the new photo?
Yes.
And here's an unobstructed view of the location of the proposed nano wall, which would be here, and the proposed second egress, which would be here. So as the chair stated, we're going to take the alterations one by one, starting with the signage. Can everyone see the plans on my screen?
Got it.
Oops. Great. The applicant appeared before the Design Review Committee at its July 20th meeting. The proposed signage consists of 2 wall signs located above the entry doors on both the facade and the side patio elevations. The signs include aluminum letters painted dark bronze mounted onto a finished wood panel. The sign includes a watermark design located on the right side that is emphasized when the sign is illuminated. The sign size and materials are both consistent with the guidelines. The proposed color scheme is mostly consistent with the guidelines, which recommend that sign colors complement the colors of the building and that signs have a dark background with lighter lettering. The guidelines also state that the sign should have no more than 2 or 3 colors. The proposed sign colors do complement the colors of the building and do not exceed the recommended number of colors, but the sign is not entirely consistent with the guidelines as the wood colored background is lighter than the aluminum lettering, as you can see here. The commission has approved a similar sign to the proposed sign on the same building, and I can show a photo of that as well. One moment. Can everyone see this photo? It's the sign at 1799. Is it showing up properly?
Yeah, it's just a different mounting.
Yes.
But it's the same
Yes,
thing.
okay. Oh, I just wanted to make sure that the
Yeah.
photo was showing.
It's a good picture.
It's a great picture. Okay, you gonna do your recommendation then, Kelly?
Yes, I'm not quite finished.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
Oh, that's okay. The sign placement is mostly consistent with the guidelines. The guidelines recommend that the location, size, and placement of the signs should be selected to complement those of neighboring or adjacent buildings. The signs are proposed to be placed above the storefront within the transom located here. Though the guidelines recommend against covering transom glass, this location is a logical placement based on the defenestration pattern of the building. This location is not out of scale or substantially different from sign locations on nearby buildings. The proposed signage lighting consists of recessed can lights located within the building soffit that will project light directly onto the wall signs. The guidelines recommend the use of concealed incandescent lighting and recommend against internally lit signs. Furthermore, the guidelines recommend that new light fixtures used to illuminate signs be unobtrusive and have appropriate placement on the building. The type and location of the proposed recessed can lights are consistent with the guidelines. It's recommended that the Historic Zoning Commission approve with conditions the proposed signage as follows. The sign does not entirely meet the intent of the guidelines as the wood colored background is lighter than the dark bronze aluminum aluminum lettering. The intent of the design is to emulate branded wood. So if the Historic Zoning Commission determines that the sign does not meet the intent of the guidelines, then the applicant must modify the coloring and present it to staff to review for compliance with the guidelines prior to issuance of a sign permit. The lighting used for the external illumination should be of a warm tone, and the application must meet all of the requirements of the Building and Neighborhood Services Department for issuance of a sign permit, and any changes should be returned to staff for review and approval. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Okay, the applicant wish to make comments. Barry was on the call, I believe. Okay.
Mr. Borichak, are you there?
He was on the
You'll
call.
need to unmute yourself, sir. You could hit the space bar or unmute in the bottom left corner.
There he is.
We can unmute you here,
Yeah.
possibly, if that helps. Kelly, can you try to unmute him? Did you try holding down the space bar?
He was
Hold it,
on.
hold
There
it,
you go.
hold-
You're in.
Hold it down. Yeah, you might have to hold it down.
And I'm holding
Great.
it.
You made it.
Yeah.
Barry, do you have any comments on the signage part of the application?
Yeah, the only thing is the intent was to use a red oak with a stain on it. And naturally a red oak has kind of got a darker red. And then by the time we put a stain on it, it will have a darker tone. I can only say that the sort of nuances of using computers to render some of those renderings tended to wash out that red, that dark, deep red. And so I apologize that the renderings are a little bit limited in conveying a sort of a true appearance. In my mind's eye, the sign that Kelly showed, the blade sign, the circular one with the red, that's kind of what we were thinking about, that tonal quality. So that's our intent to achieve that.
Okay. Are there any citizen comments on this application?
There is a citizen comment, but on the nanowall
All right,
portion.
we'll hold that then to that portion. Okay, then the commission, then we need a motion on the signage part only so that we can start our deliberation. Is there such a motion?
Make a motion. This is Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'll make a motion to approve with conditions a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed lighting and signage.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ken. All right, questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make an amendment to the motion.
All right,
I'd like to amend the motion to allow the color of the sign, the lettering, to be as presented, as opposed to being in a lighter color.
okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ken. Then let's.
And may I clarify? I believe that the staff recommendation is that if that's determined to be appropriate, that's fine. And I'd ask Ms. Gibson to clarify. I think that the way the motion's read, that Mr. Hathaway's amendment is moved.
Yes, it's the recommendation states that if the Historic Zoning Commission determines that the sign does not meet the intent of the guidelines, then the applicant must modify the coloring and present it to staff for review.
Okay, then I'll withdraw my amendment.
Okay, I just
Thank you.
wanted to make sure, and I apologize for interjecting.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, Mr. Chair, one thing would be to say that it could either be approved as presented or with a dark background. I'm fine. I think the sign's great looking. It would be more that signs in a historic district tend to be different to reflect different businesses. And I would like them to either, I'm looking behind the chair at the city sign with the bronze background with the light or gold lettering. And I would like them to just leave that door open for the applicant to approve it as submitted, or if they decided to do a dark background with a lighter lettering, they could also do that. That would be my, I guess, a proposed amendment is how that would have to go forward as an amendment.
I'll second that. It's Mike Hathaway.
Okay.
All right, so restate what you just said, Mary.
Okay.
Very succinctly.
That the sign be approved as submitted with the lighter wood background and the dark lettering, or the applicant has the opportunity to do a dark background with light lettering in more or less the subdued color palette that's submitted and come to staff for approval.
Okay. All right, I think that's what the recommendation says.
No, sir, it isn't.
Okay.
It says to approve it as submitted, and I'm recommending that there be an alternative.
Okay.
Either or. And Mike, I think, is willing to second.
Mike's recommended. All right, okay. All right, is there any discussion on the amendment? Is there a discussion on the amendment?
I just like to clarify here because is the amendment giving an option?
An option.
The historic zoning.
An option.
Okay, so the Historic Zoning Commission, if they so desire, should approve the plan as submitted.
That's correct.
As part of the main motion.
Yes, or with the option, either or. Approve as submitted, or also approve that the applicant could go forward with a dark background like the guidelines recommend and light lettering. Coming back to staff for the alternative. It's either or. Mike, do you know how to say it any more succinctly than I'm saying it?
Well, I understand your position. I think ultimately we're agreeing to what they're submitting.
That's
right.
correct.
That's
But if they
exactly right.
choose to go with a darker background and lighter colors, they don't have to come back to us.
That's correct.
I understand the amendment.
Okay, any other discussion on the amendment before we vote on the amendment? Okay, then let's vote on the amendment. Ms. Besser,
No,
you're voting no. Is that what I
I'm
heard?
voting no
All
on
right,
the amendment.
and I see Mr. Carson has joined us. There he is. About you.
Have.
What's your vote?
It's no on the amendment.
Mr. Hathaway,
I'll vote yes.
Mr. Laster,
No.
Ms. Marquardt,
Yes.
Ms. Pierce,
Yes.
Ms. Scalf,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, so the amendment. So we're back to the original motion. Is there any other discussion on the motion? And we're now as amended. Okay, we're ready to vote. Let's vote on the original motion as amended. Ms. Besser,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Mr. Hathaway,
Yes.
Mr. Laster,
Yes.
Ms. Marquardt,
Yes.
Ms. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Scalf,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, that's item one. Ms. Gibson, we're ready for the next portion of this, which is the entry storefront alterations.
Yes. Please bear with me as I share my screen. Oh, I think I need permission again, please. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great. The next alteration is the entry storefront alteration. So here you can see the property pre-build out. And then here is the rendering depicting the alteration. The applicant is requesting to alter the existing storefront by revising the chamfered entrance to include storefront entrances on both the primary and patio side elevations, separated by the existing front corner masonry pier. The storefront entrances will be of the same material and color, which is dark bronze aluminum frame and then aluminum doors with tempered glass, as the existing installed storefronts. The proposed alterations are consistent with the guidelines. It is recommended that the Historic Zoning Commission approve with conditions the proposed storefront alterations as follows. The application must meet all of the requirements of the Building and Neighborhood Services Department for issuance of a building permit, and all changes must be returned to staff or the Historic Zoning Commission for review and approval. Thank you.
Thanks. Are there any comments from the applicant? Barry, I hope we have you unmuted.
Yeah, I've got it down, I think. No, I think the storefront modifications truly help the way that the patrons would flow in and out of the building. And we think it's critical that these modifications happen in this manner.
Okay, are there any citizens that wish to comment on this part of the application for the entry storefront alterations? Hearing none, we're ready for a motion so that we begin discussion. Is there such a motion?
I will make a motion to approve with conditions the alteration of the entry storefront.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pierce. Is there a second to Ms. Pierce's motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Brian. I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. Discussion. Ready to vote? Okay, please respond as I call your name. Ms. Besser.
Aye.
Mr. Carson.
Aye.
Mr. Hathaway.
Aye.
Mr. Laster.
Aye.
Ms. Marquardt.
Aye.
Ms. Pierce.
Aye.
Mr. Scow.
Aye.
And myself, aye. All right, we're ready for item or the third piece of this application, which is the side elevation second egress. Ms. Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could share my screen again, please. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great.
Got it.
The applicant is requesting to alter a storefront window located on the patio side elevation of the building. So it's a store here. The alteration consists of adding a door to provide service access between the interior of the building and the patio to fulfill the requirements for a second egress door from the restaurant. The proposed design is consistent with the guidelines as the modification maintains a traditional storefront design. It is recommended that the Historic Zoning Commission approve with condition the proposed side elevation storefront alterations as follows. The application must meet all of the requirements of the Building and Neighborhood Services Department for issuance of a building permit, and any changes must be returned to staff or the Historic Zoning Commission for review and approval. Thank you.
Would the applicant like to comment on this piece of the application?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We have a need for a secondary egress out of the space, and it also doubles as a function for people sitting on the patio to go in and out of the restaurant to the restrooms and facilitate that flow as well.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any citizens that wish to comment on this part of the application? Hearing none, then we're ready for a motion.
Mr. Chair, this is Brian. I move that we approve with conditions the proposed side elevation storefront alteration.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah. Mr. Scouf? Okay, got you. Any discussion? Hearing none, please, we're ready to vote. Please respond when I call your name. Ms. Besser?
Aye.
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mr. Hathaway?
Aye.
Mr. Laster?
Aye.
Ms. Marquardt?
Aye.
Ms. Pierce?
Aye.
Mr. Scouf?
Aye.
And myself, aye. All right, the last item is the side elevation nano wall. Ms. Gibson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could share my screen again, please. Thank you. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Good. The proposed reconfiguration includes the installation of a nano wall system and bar counter with replacement brick infill located below the bar top here. The storefront window is located on the patio side elevation of the building. A nano wall is an operable folding window system that would provide an opening in the bar area to allow for dual, meaning indoor and outdoor service. The design would retain the existing transoms, and the nano wall frame would be composed of dark bronze aluminum, a material that is found on the other building storefronts. The bar countertop would be made of galvanized steel in a light color to dissipate heat. The new brick infill would be selected to match the brick present on the adjacent storefronts. As presented, the proposed alteration is not consistent with the guidelines because the design does not conform to a traditional storefront arrangement. The location of the nano wall is highly visible along East Main Street, and though the property is an infill building, the alterations should be considered within the context of the historic buildings in the district. The grid pattern of the divided light segments seen here is more in line with the other windows located on the building. The fact that it opens along with the location of the countertop, which will be in a light aluminum color, contribute to the arrangement being an untraditional storefront configuration. It's unlikely that staff could recommend approval for a nano wall anywhere in downtown unless it were located on a rear elevation. It is recommended that the Historic Zoning Commission deny the proposed side elevation storefront alterations with the following. The guidelines recommend against non-traditional storefront configurations, stating that new storefronts should maintain traditional design and arrangements. If issued a COA, the nano wall window system must have an appearance closer in line with a traditional storefront configuration. The specific configuration must be approved by staff or the Historic Zoning Commission prior to issuance of a building permit. If issued a COA, the applicant must use brick and cast stone as used elsewhere on the building. Samples of the proposed masonry must be submitted to the Historic Zoning Commission or staff for consideration in light of the applicable guidelines prior to issuance of a building permit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gibson. Would the applicant like to comment? Barry, I'll let you go first. I think we have some other applicants here, or parts of the applicant process.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the intent of the nano wall is to help activate the inside and outside experience of the restaurant. We are fortunate to have a generous outdoor seating area. And we think that combining the indoor-outdoor experience will just enhance the dining experience. The NanaWall system itself is an aluminum system. It is a very highly engineered system and customizable. And so that is why we are able to follow the lines of the existing storefront and mimic those patterns. And it also provides a benefit for operations in that they can fold inside and stay out of the way, get out of the way, and conserve space. So we feel very strongly that this would be an added element to the entire restaurant, which we feel is going to be a very central kind of nice meeting area for downtown.
Thank you. Are there any citizens who wish to comment on this part of the application? And we have 2 in the room. Steve, you want to just be sure you identify yourself. You need to unmute. There we go.
No, I just to follow up with Barry's comments. I think it's the attempt what Barry did, which is very good, is to engage that outside with the inside. And my contention is a non-contributing structure. It's off of Main Street. And again, that patio is going to be a main focus of what Chef Frank wants to do. So as much as we can bring the outside in and inside out is what we hope you guys would consider it. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. My name is Frank. Nice to meet you all. I'm going to be the chef owner of Colacino, and just to touch base with what Barry and Steve were just saying, it's a vision that I had when I first came to downtown Franklin. It's just that corner is so beautiful, and to try and integrate the whole indoor, outdoor, and it's a great opportunity for us to be able to, while people are waiting for a table, to go outside because we are so limited inside space as well. So it's just a great place for people to sit and just watch the people eating, or you're actually just walking down the street. So just a great opportunity to capitalize in that corner.
All right, thank you. Kelly, do we have somebody on the phone?
We do. Go ahead, Janelle.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Janelle Bartel, and I'm a newer resident here in Franklin City, which I love. I moved here from Seattle, and I'm with Amazon, and I'm at 322 11th Avenue North. And I was reviewing the proposal, and I'm familiar with a lot of different commercial properties and a lot of different businesses, and the way to the community and citizens, and the ability to kind of pull people in and feel part of that community. And I've lived in probably every major city we have in the U.S. And I'm very much in favor of the NanaWall. I think it builds a better customer relationship. I think it builds a better community. That entire area and the way that it looks like you've been trying to develop it, which is beautiful, is all about bringing the community with all of the different retailers and restaurants. And so I believe the NanaWall is a much better way of doing that than your fixed glass painting, which is more of a barrier kind of approach. So I just wanted to provide a citizen opinion on that.
Thank you.
Janelle, could you say your name loudly into the record, please?
Sure. It's Janelle, G as in girl, E-N-E-L-L, and the last name is Bartel, B as in boy, A-R, T as in Tom, E-L.
Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other citizen comments?
There is a citizen comment in the Zoom group chat. Would you like me to read that into the
Yes,
record?
please.
Okay. It says, "This is Danny Anderson. We, Parks Realty, are neighbors of Culacino's and support their request for the NanaWall. We are fortunate to get this or any restaurant in our community at this time, and this will certainly be an additional draw for them. As this is not a historic building, I hope you will support their request."
Thank you. I think that's the last comment then. Let's have a motion then from the commission so we can start discussion on this part.
Mr. Chair, I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead. Whoa, Ken, you're muted.
I'm sorry. I move to approve with conditions a certificate of appropriateness for the side elevation storefront alterations based on staff analysis and recommendation.
Okay, you're moving to approve it. I need a reason why you would vote to approve it.
It's not fair to me to approve mixed use development in the historic district like this and then restrict its use.
All right, thank you. Is there a second to that motion to approve?
I'll second. Mike Hathaway.
Okay, discussion, questions?
Mr. Chairman, can I make an amendment to the motion?
Sure.
As I understand, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but the motion was to approve with staff comments. And one of the comments is that the nano wall would have an appearance closer in line with traditional storefront configuration. So I'm going to amend the motion and propose an amendment that would say that the approve as submitted by the applicant.
Second.
Okay. Ken, second. That's approving the nano wall as presented. That's the amendment. Is there any comment on that amendment before we have a vote on it? All right, let's.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
All right.
Does the nano wall face East Main Street?
No, faces landmark books.
Thank you.
Ms. Gibson, can you pull the photograph back up, please, so everyone can be very clear which one it is?
Sure. Can everyone see the photo?
Yes.
Okay, so the nano wall would be located here. This is East Main.
So to answer Mr. Laster's question, it doesn't directly face East Main, but it's very visible from East Main.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the amendment? Okay, then are we ready to vote on the amendment? Hearing, I'm assuming that means yes. Ms. Besser. I'm sorry. Ms. Besser on the amendment.
No.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Mr. Hathaway,
Yes.
Mr. Laster,
Yes.
Ms. Marquardt,
No.
Ms. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Scalf,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Now we're back to the motion as amended. Are there any other questions on that motion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Besser.
I have a comment. I think that when we start changing these elevations that we're setting a precedent, and I think we're just going to be setting us up to have a lot of these come back to us. That's my concern. I am not in favor of the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Pierce.
I don't think that there would be many conditions where I would think this is appropriate, but a hotel is always a highlighted area in any historic towns, and we're not lucky enough to have a historic hotel like we do in my hometown. But when the hotel was built in Somerset, Kentucky, it had lots of features that none of the other buildings had to make it work. I do feel like this has been done in a really quiet way. I would not be wanting to approve this in most any other situation, but I guess I've always felt do no harm in historic preservation. It just all depends. And to me, this is a situation where it's going to come across pretty quiet. And the lady that was on with the citizens, I have been in Seattle in some of the buildings that have been redone that weren't particularly historic that have a Nana wall. So I get what she was saying. Thank you.
I have a comment, Mr. Chair. This is Lisa. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. I wanted to
I've been
echo.
muted.
Am I muted?
No, I am. I was.
Oh, okay. I wanted to echo what Ms. Besser said. I understand all the input that the citizens and the applicants have articulated. They're all very good reasons for the Nana wall. I do believe that with it, if it were to pass, that we would be setting a precedent that would be very difficult to approve here and deny somewhere else. So that's my position.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, we're ready to vote. Ms. Besser, on the main motion as amended.
No.
Mr. Carson,
Aye.
Mr. Hathaway,
Aye.
Mr. Laster,
Aye.
Ms. Marquardt,
No.
Ms. Pierce,
Aye.
Mr. Scalf,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. That's 6-2 on the motion passes then. Thanks to all.
I do have a question before we move on. As far as the countertop goes, will it be able to be removed every night, or is it inherent to the fixture itself?
Barry, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I can jump in here. Well, the intent was for it to be permanent. It's a small ledge bar top. It would protrude out about 10 inches from the brick and serve as a normal bar top.
Is there a way for it to be where it's not permanent? That was staff's main concern.
We can certainly look into that possibility. We would have to do a little creative engineering, but it's possible. At the moment,
You're muted again.
Muted again. Can you fix it, Kelly?
okay, how's that?
Hey, guys.
That's good.
One of these days I'll get it right. Yeah, we can look into it. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure how successful it would be to do something like that. But now the material could be any range of materials. And you know, at this point, I think we could certainly listen to staff and see what might be appropriate if it were a fixed permanent item. One of the things that we are concerned about is it does face the west sun, and any kind of metal could get very hot, and it could be a little bit of a challenge to get something in there that's going to work for everybody. So, you know, we have to think through all of those issues.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's move on then to our next item. We are now consideration of addition and alterations at 217 Lewisburg Avenue, Billy and Gina level. Staff presentation, Amanda.
Okay. May I share screen, please? Hi, everyone. We are discussing item number 3, consideration of additions and alterations at 217 Lewisburg Avenue. The applicant's requesting a COA for a series of work. The series being a reconsideration of a 1-story rear addition, the replacement of the front elevation entry door and the replacement of the front elevation porch columns. The applicant did appear before the DRC to discuss the proposed addition at its July 20th meeting. The guidelines recommend that additions be designed to be clearly contemporary, yet compatible with the proportions, form, materials, and details of a building, and be limited to no more than half of the footprint of the original building. The original building is defined to include all portions of a building that are at least 50 years in age. The historic building must be clearly identifiable, and its physical integrity must not be compromised by the new addition, as there are approaches that unify the existing structure and new construction into a single architectural whole. The guidelines support the placement of additions on rear or obscured elevations with limited visibility, noting, however, that rear and side elevations may not always be appropriate for additions, as some historic buildings have visual prominence from many vantage points. The proposed additions located on the rear elevation of the residence. While the bulk of the additions recess behind the historic structure's rear facade, a small section is proposed to have limited visibility from vantage points in front of the house. The applicants provided three-dimensional renderings to help demonstrate the view sheds from various angles around the property. Designed at a one-story scale, a side gable ties into the existing non-historic sunroom addition and extends outward, matching the ridge height from the front-facing gable. The portion of the existing sunroom roof is modified slightly to allow for the addition through the inclusion of a cricket. A cross gable is also incorporated into the addition. The use of the connector design, as well as the proposed addition's height, offset, and material changes differentiate it from the historic form. So I should have already pulled this up, but I'm going to go ahead and pull up the addition for you. Here is the site plan that shows the proposed addition. Here's the existing home, and between the dotted line and the shaded area is the existing non-historic addition, is the sunroom. Here is the three-dimensional area. Bear with me, I'm having to move some Zoom stuff around so I can minimize. So you can see here, this is the historic building. Here is that non-historic addition. And then here is where the addition is tied on the back of the house with a portion of it reading from the side angle on the right side of the house. And you can see the angle that you see from the very front of the house. And then here is from the rear and left view. So you can see this cricket modification, the side gable, and then the cross gable. And here's the 2D drawings. The applicant did incorporate many of the design modifications that were recommended by the July DRC. These modifications include the following. Since the existing sunroom is serving as the quote unquote connector in the design approach, as you can see here, between the historic form and the proposed new form, the applicant responded to recommendations to modify the design of the necessary cricket into a more of a hip shape. You can see that really well on the rear and right side. So here is the new cricket shape. It's not a true hip, but it reads as more of a hip shape, and it provides more congruency to the overall design. It really cleans up the roof form. The fenestration pattern has been altered on the right side as well in order to provide more consistency with the rhythm and spacing of this historic form. So there were a number of different window shapes on this side, which have been cleaned up quite a bit. The applicant incorporated a facade break here on this right side as well. So this was a pretty flat form, but now there has been a slight masonry offset introduced underneath this side gable, which lessens the addition's perceived mass. And then a wall awning was removed from the left elevation. And moving on to size discussion. As I mentioned, the design guidelines recommend that additions not exceed more than half of the footprint of the original form. This footprint measures 816 square feet, which equates to approximately 49.2% of the existing structure, or the historic, the existing structure. The proposed addition combined with the non-historic sunroom addition equates to approximately 61.5% of the original structure. So the applicant sized the addition to meet the guidelines as related to the existing structure, but not taking into account the sunroom addition that's currently there. The sunroom addition is about 330 square feet. So the addition size is not entirely consistent with the guidelines, which recommend that it be 50% or less. So that total cumulative is 61.5%. The lot coverage, however, amounts to 11.3%, which is far underneath the recommendations of the guidelines. The guidelines recommend not to exceed 35% in specified residential districts, including this one, which is R4. The use of painted brick construction, standing seam metal roofing on the connector, asphalt shingle roofing on the main form of the addition, all consistent with the guidelines. The use of a CMU foundation is mostly consistent with the guidelines. The guidelines recommend that if concrete block is used, one paint the entire foundation a uniform color or use a parge coating. And window specifications have not been submitted for consideration in light of the guidelines. And moving on to the proposed alterations to the front elevation. I'm going to move to a photograph of the front of the house. Can everyone see my new share?
That's not it.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I showed the wrong thing. This is definitely not their house. Okay, just a moment. I believe I had it in the staff report. Is that correct? Just an aerial. Okay. I apologize for that. I accidentally closed it a second ago.
Would you like me to try to pull it up, Amanda?
Can you see the screen now? Okay, so this isn't the best photograph, but it's one I have open. So you can see the home. The guidelines recommend that original entrance location and elements be maintained. And if replacement doors are appropriate, and desired, the guidelines recommend that one use designs appropriate for the building style and age. The original porch elements should not be removed, and replacement porch posts should match the original, with wood being the most appropriate material. Now, I apologize for that delay, but I wanted you to be able to see the home again. The residence is a stone minimal traditional, and it has craftsman style windows, as you can see from this photograph. Non-original elements like the front door and porch columns have colonial revival nuances. The use of the proposed craftsman style door, which you can see in the materials provided by the applicant, and I can pull up if desired by the commission, would be in keeping with the historical architectural elements on the residence, as well as squared columns, and therefore the intent of the guidelines. Would anyone like to see those elements pulled up? You would? Okay. So I'm going to share those. Bear with me a moment. Okay, so Mr. and Mrs. Level would like to use this door as a more craftsman 3/4 panel door, 3/4 glass door. And then they would like to use square columns like so. So it is recommended that the commission deny the proposed addition, as the footprint of the proposed addition combined with the existing non-historic addition equates to approximate 61.5% increase to the original building, which is not in keeping with the guidelines. The guidelines recommend that additions not exceed more than half of the original footprint of the building. If issued a COA, the applicant must paint the entire foundation of the new addition a uniform color or use of harge coating, which would be a thin stucco wash, for consistency with the guidelines. Also, if issued a COA, the addition windows must have a historic profile and dimension and consist of either wood or composite material with the appearance of wood. The wood specifications, or window specifications rather, must be submitted to the preservation planner or the Historic Zoning Commission prior to issuance of a building permit. Further, the application must meet all the recommendations of the Building and Neighborhood Services Department, and any additional changes to the approved plans must be submitted to staff or the commission for review and approval. As for the alterations for the entrance and the porch, it is recommended that the commission approve with conditions the proposed entry door and porch column replacement, as the applicant must submit, or the conditions being that the applicant must submit the porch columns to staff for review and approval in light of the applicable guidelines prior to work commencing. So we do not have the dimensional specifications associated with those. The columns should be scaled similarly to those present on the front porch, and they should be wood material. And the application must meet all the requirements of the BNS department, and those changes, if any, must be submitted to the preservation planner or the commission for review and approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Would the applicant like to comment on this application?
Yes, thank you, Amanda. You did a great job presenting that. The reason for the addition in the first place is, of course, it's a 1950s, basically a 2-bedroom, I call it a cottage with an attic and a basement. So that we've got enough room for the family, we needed to add another bedroom and an office. The building envelope that we have in the back is very, very limited because we do have a historic garage, if you will, that of course can't be removed. So to have enough space to access that garage and also access the back of the property to drive through there. Again, we just have a narrow building envelope back there. And Amanda mentioned the addition. You can see it from the right side of the house, but it's very minimal. The homes are close together over there. So it doesn't protrude out far at all. And I think that covers everything. I think the door and the column was self-explanatory.
Okay, good. Are there any citizens that wish to comment on the application? Kelly, you have any? We have no citizen comments. Okay, let's break this into 2 motions. One's on the addition and the other then on the doors and columns. So the first one will be on the additions. If I can get a motion to start discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
before making a motion, I would like one piece of information from the applicant. How deep is the lot?
I can pull up the site plan.
Visually let us see that.
Sure. Kelly, can I reshare screen, please?
It's
Okay, I'll
pretty-
pull that back up. And they did provide a survey. I just didn't put that into the packets, guys. Let's
According
see.
to the survey, it's over 300 feet.
Yeah, it's pretty substantial.
That's what I see.
That's one of the reasons that I would move to approve it.
Well, let's make a motion.
Okay, and then give the reason.
Yeah.
Okay. I recommend that the Historic Zoning Commission approve the proposed addition with it exceeding the recommended size by 11.5%. And the reason that I would go against what our standard guideline recommendation is because of the size of the lot, the way those lots are situated. It would be very hard to visibly see a long addition on the back of that. And I do think the application responded to breaking up the addition as our guidelines recommend.
Is there a second to that motion?
Chair, I second.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lester. Comments? Ms. Besser, I see you.
I will not be able to motion. I still feel that the entire house and not to the right. And I realize that there's an argument for, but I don't think that's really something to consider. So I will not be able to support the motion.
All right, thank you. Any other comments?
I had a question. I was not there at the design review when this application was being discussed, but I was wondering if any pictures were presented by the applicant that depicted the context of this potential addition in relationship to what is next door or nearby. Were any photos of that nature presented to the commission?
Amanda, do you have those handy from the street? The photo from the street?
What I believe Ms. Marquardt's asking is for photographs
From the adjoining property.
from the adjoining properties, which we don't have.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Ms. Marquardt?
Yeah, to clarify, I just wonder if we do approve this larger addition, is it going to be inconsistent with what is near it? And by inconsistent, it would mean not just what it looks like from the street view, but obviously from the mass and scale in the back as compared to the neighbors, for example.
Well, I am happy to pull up the location map I included in the staff report and recommendation. That does show the aerial view of the property in relation to neighboring properties.
Yeah, let's pull that up. You're right, Brenda.
What you think that would be helpful,
Yeah,
Ms.
pull
Marquardt?
that up. That might be able to answer the question.
I wonder if we could zoom in on that even.
Certainly. Can everyone see
Yeah.
the screen? Okay. So the subject property has this red pin here. So this is the current condition. And you see there's a garage here, and then there's a asphalt pad. So the addition would go here.
So the addition extending off the back of the house does not go way past the front of that garage. I don't know if you can tell from the other.
Point out the garage. Yeah, garage up there.
And I can scroll, well, I can reshare and show the site plan again as well. So you can see on the site plan the relationship of the existing garage with the proposed addition. They won't connect, there'll be a space between.
But I think I can answer to some degree, Lisa, your question, because they're different size houses or structures on those properties that are right in through there, and especially across the street, which they're much larger than what the levels have. And then there's the retail, right in that curve, there's a retail shop. And then I think the house right next to it has a pretty good sized garage on it. So, I mean, they're just various sizes in through there. They have the unique situation of being an extremely narrow lot in there, narrow and deep. And I think that's what Ms. Pierce was saying. So that's,
I see. Okay, thank you.
And my only comment about this, I think the levels have worked with us, not just this last design review, but 2 or 3 design reviews. And I know with Amanda one-on-one, and I think they've done pretty much everything that we have asked them to do, and the staff has asked them to do. And I think because of the size of the lot and the unique facing, unique size and what they're trying to do, they fit everything in as best they can do. Sure, it could be smaller, but I don't know if it would be as functional as what they really intend it to be. So I'm for this application.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Ready to vote? Then I'm gonna just respond as I call your name. Ms. Besser.
No.
Mr. Carson.
Aye.
Mr. Hathaway.
Aye.
Mr. Laster.
Aye.
Ms. Marquardt.
Aye.
Ms. Pierce.
Aye.
Mr. Scow.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 1. Ms. Besser voting no on that part. Now let's talk about the doors and the columns. Is there anything else you want to add, Gina, on that?
No. Thank you.
Okay. Then then a motion on that?
I move to approve with conditions a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed entrance door and porch column replacement.
Thank you, Ms. Pierce. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Scow. Any discussion? Okay, we're ready to vote. Ms. Besser.
Aye.
Mr. Carson.
Aye.
Mr. Hathaway.
Aye.
Mr. Laster.
Aye.
Ms. Marquardt.
Aye.
Ms. Pierce.
Aye.
Mr. Scow.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, Mr. and Ms. Level. We look forward to the open house.
Thanks, Ms. Level.
You'll be invited.
Done a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, our next item is consideration of partial demolition and addition at 436 Boyd Mill Avenue. Matt Smith, applicant.
Chair, before you get started, if I could, I will recuse myself from this item.
So noted. Okay, Ms. Burrows.
Okay, the applicant is requesting a COA for the demolition of the rear porch and its replacement with a 485 square foot addition at 436 Boyd Mill Avenue. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen, and this time I will pull up this house, which is correct this time. The applicant appeared before the DRC to discuss the proposal at its July 20th meeting. The applicant's requesting to remove the rear porch in order to accommodate the proposed addition. I'm going to go ahead and show you the rear porch. You can see it at the bottom right here. Right here. It was built about 5 years ago, I believe. The guidelines would recommend against the demolition of historic buildings or structures and state that demolition can only be approved if the commission deems one of the criteria as listed to be met. Since the porch is not historic and it's built in 2015, it's not historic and its removal will not adversely impact the district's character. As for the proposed addition, the guidelines recommend that additions be clearly contemporary yet compatible with portions, forms, materials, and details of the building and be limited to no more than half of the footprint of the original building. The original building is defined to include all portions of the building that are at least 50 years in age. The historic building must be clearly identifiable and its physical integrity must not be compromised by the new addition as through approaches that unify the existing structure, the new construction, into a single architectural whole. The guidelines support the placement of additions on rear or obscured elevations with limited visibility, noting, however, that rear or side elevations may not always be appropriate for additions, as some buildings have visual prominence from many vantage points. The proposed addition is located on the rear elevation behind this existing addition. It's recessed behind the historic structure's rear facade, and a portion of the proposed addition extends outward but remains recessed behind and to the side of the side elevation chimney. And I'm going to show that here. So here's the proposed addition, which is a screen porch largely. You see it's recessed mainly behind the house, but the part that juts out is in line with the side elevation chimney that's already there. Because of this, the addition will offer limited visibility from vantage points in front of the house. The applicant has provided three-dimensional renderings to help demonstrate the view sheds from various angles of the property. I'm going to go ahead and show you some of those. So you can see the center. This is from the right side. Here is again from the right side. You can see a portion of it slightly. And here is a tiny bit from the left side. Designed at a 1-story scale, the side gable screen porch ties into the existing non-historic addition. You see that here. And extends outward at a much lower height than the main roof ridge. Forgive me, I'm having a hard time because I can hear myself from this computer. So I'm sorry if I'm stuttering a little bit. The addition also features a small hipped enclosed area on the right side of the screen porch. Another small section is a covered porch only, and you can see that mainly from the right side. So here's the covered porch or screened in porch. Here's covered enclosed porch, and then this is just porch that's not enclosed. The porch is shorter height, it's offset from the house, and its use of massing changes through the use of screening glass help differentiate it from the historic form. The applicant has incorporated a recommendation of the July DRC by relocating the chimney from the left elevation of the screen porch addition to the rear elevation, lessening its visibility. So you can see that here on the rear. It was proposed to be over here, kind of beside this other chimney, and you would have been able to see it really well from the street. As for the size, the footprint of the proposed addition measures 485 square feet. The original structure's footprint measures approximately 1,431 square feet, and the proposed addition combined with that non-historic rear addition equates to approximately 70.7% of the original structure. The addition size, therefore, is not consistent with the guidelines, which recommend that additions be limited to no more than half of the original footprint of the house. The proposed lot coverage amounts to approximately 6% which is consistent with the guidelines. It's a very large lot. The guidelines recommend that lot coverage not exceed 35% in specified residential zoning districts. Now, the use of lap siding to match the existing home, brick foundation to match the existing, and composition shingle roofing are all consistent with the guidelines. And the window specifications have not been submitted for consideration at this time. So it is recommended that the commission approve the proposed demolition as the applicant has complied with the recommendations of the guidelines, as the area of the residence proposed for demolition is not historic, and all the approved exterior demolition must be limited to what is indicated on the application plan set. Any demolition that may compromise the exterior materials, details, or forms of the existing residence must be reviewed and approved by the commission prior to work proceeding. And the application must meet all the requirements of the Building and Neighborhood Services Department prior to issuance of the building permit, with any changes being returned to staff or the commission prior to work commencing. As for the addition, it's recommended that the commission deny it, as the proposed addition exceeds the recommendations of the guidelines, as it measures 70.7%, which is 20.7% higher than the 50% recommendation of the guidelines. If issued a COA, the window specifications must be submitted to staff for review and approval in light of the guidelines prior to issuance of the building permit. And it must meet all the requirements of BNS prior to being issued a building permit as well. Thank you.
Okay, the applicant like to come. The applicant, please comment on the application. Matt,
Yes,
welcome to your first Historic Zoning Commission meeting.
thank you, sir. And thank you for considering approval of this. The owners they're wanting to enhance the function of the home to include that screen porch so they can help them enjoy the outside, as well as a small entry zone. And as Amanda stated, it does exceed the recommendations for new roof as a proportion of the original roof. I would ask you to consider these items as you consider this. First, it's design. We worked with the owner pretty diligently to make sure that it was compatible with the original house, although differentiated from it clearly. And we worked to bring the height and the scale and the massing down, and to make that connection with the existing house really appropriate. In the beginning of the design process, a second floor was considered, and that was rejected, so as to keep its scale at an appropriate level. The slope of the lot, as it slopes towards the back, will also help to bring the scale of the addition down. And as you saw in the perspective views, it complies with the guidelines regarding street visibility, and it will be minimally visible from either side. It probably will, you'd have to probably start down the driveway to really see it from the eastern approach. And during the design review, it was recommended that the chimney be moved from the west wall so as to minimize the visual impact of that side, which we did. And thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any citizens who wish to comment on this application? Kelly, do you have anything? Thank you. All right. Then let's do this in two notions. One on the demolition, the first one, and then the second on the new addition. So let's take the demolition first. Is there a motion then on the demolition so we can discuss?
Mr. Chair, this is Jeff. I'll make a motion to approve with conditions a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed partial demolition through the removal of the rear porch.
All
This
right,
is Lisa, I'll second.
thank you, Lisa. All right, any questions on that, any comments? All right, ready to vote. Ms. Besser,
Aye.
Mr. Carson,
Aye.
Mr. Hathaway is recused. Mr. Laster,
Aye.
Markwart,
Aye.
Ms. Pierce,
Aye.
Mr. Scouf,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. All right, then we're to the new addition. Is there a motion on the new addition?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Lisa.
I move to deny issuance of a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed addition based on staff analysis and recommendation.
Is there a second to that? No second.
I'll second.
Ms. Besser, seconds. Discussion. Any discussion? You ready to vote on the denial? All right, just respond as I call your name. Ms. Besser,
Aye.
Mr. Carson,
No.
Mr. Laster,
No.
Ms. Markwart,
Aye.
Ms. Pierce,
No.
Mr. Scouf,
No.
and the chair votes no. 5 to 2, then that motion fails. Is there another motion?
Well, this was to support her motion.
That was a motion to deny, that failed. So is there another motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve certificate of appropriateness for the proposed addition based on the staff analysis and recommendation.
All right, you better clarify. They recommended denial. So you're saying to approve it.
I'm moving to approve.
Okay, give me a reason since it's against the staff recommendation.
It's mostly unconditioned space, and it's the homeowners are kind of hamstrung because of the addition that was done previously. I know that's an issue, but given the gravity of how the boards voted, it seems to be the only thing to do. You can't leave it hanging.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Brian. I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion.
The reason that, Mr. Chair, that I would consider doing a larger addition on this home is because of the way it's situated, and it's on an extraordinarily large lot for this little house. So I think there is forgiveness for the impact to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Is there any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Jeff. I'll second Mary's comments that I believe is it correct that staff mentioned the lot coverage is 6%?
Yes.
So it goes to the point that this is a small original structure, and then the addition still renders it, in comparison to the lot size, relatively small. So I feel like we can give some leeway.
All right. Any other comments? Okay, we're ready to vote. Please respond then when I call your name. Ms. Besser,
No.
Mr. Carson,
Aye.
Mr. Laster,
Aye.
Ms. Markwart,
No.
Ms. Pierce,
Aye.
Mr. Scouf,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. 5 to 2. 5 yeses to 2. So the motion is to approve this addition as presented. Okay. There are no other items except for I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Besser. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Lisa. So please respond. Ms. Besser,
Yes.
Mr.
Aye.
Carson,
Aye.
Mr. Hathaway, you can come back in. I think he's absent now. Mr. Laster,
Aye.
Ms. Marquardt,
aye.
Ms. Pierce,
Aye.
Mr. Scaff,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you all. We will have design review next week. Amanda, you got any comments on that?
Yes, we do have 3 to 4 items so far, and I do want to let you know that I would appreciate if you could consider a special DRC for 3 o'clock on the 17th. I wanted to get some clarification. I'm not sure if we're going to have that confirmed just yet. We don't have it confirmed just yet, but there is a potential for a 3 o'clock on the 17th to have a joint meeting with the Franklin Public Art Commission to discuss a project that has been submitted that would be within the historic preservation overlay. And the FPAC coordinator and myself do think it would be very helpful for both the commissions to be able to have a joint meeting to be able to discuss the item together as opposed to discussing separately and then having questions of one another that wouldn't be able to be answered communally. So I will try to get that firmed up just as quickly as possible, but if you could go ahead and pencil that in, I would greatly appreciate it.
And that'll be a Zoom meeting, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Any other announcements, Amanda?
No.
Okay. Thanks to all. No, Susan. Susan's got a comment.